This happened a few months ago. I was 35 and working as a sound engineer. I focused on deep space signals. When I joined a research team at an observatory in the mountains, I was excited. But I felt uneasy too. The first day, I set up my equipment in a big room filled with lights and screens. Outside, fog wrapped around the trees. The quiet was heavy, almost suffocating. I started listening to recordings, familiar noises mixed with strange, weird patterns. I thought it was just our gear acting up. But then I heard it again, the rhythmic beats, pulsing through my headphones. I looked at my teammates. Their faces were tense, more serious than curious. I felt more nervous. One night when we were reviewing footage, I heard it, a voice. My name echoed through the speakers. Evan. I froze. I looked at my team. They looked shocked too. I brushed it off, thinking I was imagining things, but their expressions told me it was real. Days passed, and things felt different. Shadows flickered in my vision. Equipment failed at bizarre times. I jumped every time a recording played. The voices grew frantic. They weren't fading away. They were calling to me, and it was unnerving. Then I noticed something odd about Julie. She flinched at every noise. Her eyes darted around, always searching. I saw her staring out the windows, lost. I asked her what was wrong, but she just shook her head, trembling like a leaf. The air felt thick with fear. I felt paranoid, like we weren't alone. I checked the recordings again, but they seemed even stranger. It felt like the sounds were trying to communicate, warning or inviting me. I couldn't tell. That last night was the worst. I lay awake, staring at the shadows. I went over recordings again. Suddenly, my name pierced the silence again. Evan! I sprang up, heart racing. I spun around, searching the room. That's when I saw it. A figure at the end of the lab, cloaked in darkness. I opened my mouth to call out, but before the words came, it vanished. My heart pounded in my chest. I walked closer to where it had stood, but only shadows greeted me. I was alone. Too alone. I turned, hoping my team would be there, but they were gone. Cold dread washed over me. I wanted to run. What was happening? I didn't know. Panic set in. I hurried to the door, but something stopped me. I felt a presence, heavy and watching. All the fear built up inside me now. I was trapped, and the voices grew louder, more insistent. They surrounded me, wrapping around me like a shroud. I stumbled back, then turned and ran. I didn't look back. I ran into the fog, desperate to escape whatever had been sent to find me. I left the observatory behind. The screams of the recordings followed me, haunting my mind. I knew I couldn't shake them off. I knew I wasn't safe. I stumbled through the fog, my breath coming out in quick bursts. The cold air burned my lungs, but I pushed myself forward. I needed to distance myself from that place. The observatory, the voices, the shadow. With every step, my thoughts raced. What had I just encountered? I found a dirt road and followed it, hoping it would lead me to safety. My mind buzzed with questions. Had my team experienced something similar? What did the voices mean? I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but doubt gnawed at me. As I walked, I felt a prickling sensation on the back of my neck. It almost felt like someone was watching me. I glanced over my shoulder but saw only the dim outline of trees receding into the darkness. I quickened my pace, praying to reach the main road soon. A few minutes later, the fog began to clear. I spotted headlights in the distance. Relief washed over me. I ran towards the light, but something stopped me. A chilling sound echoed, one I recognized from the observatory, the rhythmic beats. It was a haunting repetition that sent ice down my spine. Heart racing, I turned and sprinted back the way I came. The rhythm grew louder as I ran, almost enveloping me. I tripped over something, roots, branches, I didn't care. I just had to escape. Then I heard it again, that echoing voice. Evan! It felt closer this time, almost above a whisper. A sense of dread paralyzed me. I was terrified of what might happen if I acknowledged it, but I couldn't ignore it either. "Stop, please!" I yelled into the night. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. I stood still, panting. Then, a soft rustle came from behind me. I turned slowly, dread churning in my stomach. The fog thickened again, curling around the trees like living tendrils. That's when I saw it. A figure emerged from the mist, its outline barely visible. It was tall, unnaturally still. I was frozen, hardly believing what I was seeing. Was this my mind playing tricks? Evan. A chill coursed through me. I wanted to run but couldn't. The voice was familiar, almost comforting, mixed with a sense of horror. My instincts screamed for me to flee, but I was rooted to the spot. The figure took a step forward. I caught a glimpse, a familiar face, though distorted and ghostly. It was Julie. Her eyes were wide, filled with panic. "Evan, you have to listen," she called out, her voice strained. "They're trying to reach you. We can't leave." I shook my head, intensifying the haze of confusion. My heart pounded as panic flooded back. "What are you talking about?" But the words fell away as if the fog swallowed them. Julie stepped closer, fear etched on her features. "You have to understand. They're not—" Then everything went dark. My senses heightened. I could feel the pulsing energy in the air. Suddenly, I was aware of many voices, all speaking at once. I couldn't make out the words, but they felt desperate, like a storm rising around me. What is happening? I thought. Then I heard a different sound, a static crackle breaking through the confusion. My confusion turned to urgency. I needed to figure this out, to understand why this was happening. With no other choice, I pressed forward into the darkness, desperate to find answers. The darkness faded suddenly, replaced by a blinding white light. I squinted, disoriented, trying to grasp my surroundings. I was no longer in the woods. Instead, I found myself in a small, dimly lit room filled with strange machines. Panels blinked with unfamiliar symbols, and a low hum vibrated through the air. I stumbled forward, brushing against a cold metallic surface. Instinctively, I reached for my head, feeling a throbbing pain at my temples. What had just happened? Had I been knocked unconscious? "Evan?" The voice was clearer now, like a siren beckoning me closer. It seemed to echo through the room, familiar and haunting. I turned around, scanning the dimly lit corners. "Is anyone there?" Then I saw her, Julie, standing near a control panel. Her appearance was just as distorted as before, like a reflection in rippling water. Panic surged again in my chest. "Julie?" She nodded, her expression grave. "You need to listen to me. We're in a relay station used for deep space communication. I don't know how you got here, but they're trying to contact you." "Who's trying to contact me?" I asked, the weight of her words settling heavily on my shoulders. "What's happening?" Before she could respond, the machines around us crackled to life, and a new voice boomed through the intercom. It was robotic, distorted, yet laced with an urgency that chilled me. "Signal detected. Initiating communication protocol. Prepare for transmission." The lights flickered as the machines whirred and buzzed. I felt my heart racing, a fresh surge of fear coursing through me. This can't be real. I wish it weren't. "But it is," Julie replied, her voice trembling. "They've been trying to reach you. It's about the observatory." The intercom interrupted again, the robotic voice now interrupted by strings of crackling static. "Evan, you are in danger. You have to listen." "Danger," I interjected, desperate for clarity. "What danger? What is this place?" "Evan, the energy readings," Julie began, but before she could finish, the machine sparked violently, causing the lights to flicker fiercely. I stumbled back, my heart in my throat. Something wasn't right. I had to get out of here. I glanced around, searching for an exit. The door was slightly ajar across the room, beckoning me with promise of escape. "We can't stay here," I shouted, backing away from the machines, unsure of what they would do next. "Evan, wait," Julie called, reaching for me, but her form wavered as if she were fading. "You have to understand." But she was drowned out by the machines blaring an alarm. The robotic voice became frantic. "Warning, breaches detected, immediate evacuation required." Without thinking, I dashed toward the door. Panic pulled me forward. As I reached for the handle, I turned back one last time. "Julie, come with me." But she was gone, a mere shadow swallowed by the chaos. A sense of dread enveloped me as I pushed the door open and stepped into a dark corridor. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Footsteps echoed somewhere ahead, and I wasn't sure if they belonged to friend or foe. I took a deep breath, my body trembling with uncertainty. I had to keep moving. Whatever was happening, I was determined to find out more. I pressed against the wall, my heart pounding as the footsteps drew closer. The corridor stretched out in front of me, shadows pooling in every corner. I had to be quiet. Whoever, or whatever was out there, could be my only chance at answers. I took a cautious step forward, each footfall a risk. The sounds were still distant, but they were growing louder. I struggled to make sense of everything that had happened. Why the relay station? Why me? Did Julie know more than she had let on? As I rounded a corner, I peeked down the hallway. A figure was approaching, silhouetted against the faint emergency lights. My pulse quickened. There was no way for me to tell if they were friendly. I couldn't stay here. I needed information, but I couldn't draw attention to myself. Just as I turned to retreat, I heard a voice, urgent, yet filled with fear. "Evan! Oh God, please don't move!" It was Julie again, her hazy form flickering in and out of view. My stomach twisted. "Julie? Where are you?" "Look out!" she shouted, pointing down the corridor. I turned back, just in time to see a hooded figure step into the light. It wasn't a soldier or a technician. It was someone who looked like they belonged in the shadows. My instincts kicked in. I was not going to wait for them to find me. I bolted back down the corridor, adrenaline pushing me to the brink. The thudding footsteps followed, gaining ground with every second. "Evan, this is not a game. You need to—" Her voice faded as I tore around another corner, my breath quickening. I spotted a door on the left, partially opened. I plunged inside, praying it would lead to safety. The room was cramped, cluttered with an array of strange devices and scattered papers. I quickly scanned the walls, hoping for something that could explain my situation. That's when I noticed a monitor flickering to life in the corner. An array of symbols flashed across the screen, and then suddenly, a video feed appeared. I squinted, trying to make out what it showed. It looked like a series of charts and graphs scrolling rapidly. What little I understood screamed, "Emergency." Then a face came into view. An older man in a lab coat, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Current protocol in jeopardy. If containment fails, we risk exposure," he urged, glancing off screen. His next word sent a chill down my spine. "Initiating lockdown measures now. We cannot let it escape." I didn't understand, but the urgency was palpable. Something was wrong, seriously wrong. I felt it in my bones. Just then, the door I entered through banged open with a loud crash. The hooded figure stepped inside, scanning for me. I held my breath, my body frozen in place. I could see now their eyes glinting beneath their hood. There was something predatory in their gaze. "Where are you hiding?" they hissed, the voice low and dangerous. Desperation broke my paralysis when I spotted a vent grate above my head. I had no choice. I reached up and began to pull it open, praying it wouldn't make too much noise. The figure stepped closer, the tension unbearable, and I felt my chance slipping away. I climbed into the vent, barely fitting, and dragged the grate shut just as the figure reached the corner of the room. "Show yourself," they shouted, frustration seeping into their tone. I crawled through the vent, my heart thudding in my ears. I had to find a way out, but I also needed answers. The deeper I went, the more questions bubbled to the surface, like why was this person hunting me? Suddenly, I heard a beeping noise echoing through the vents. It was a countdown. Something was about to happen. I had to act fast. Before I could think of my next move, everything shook violently, and the entire structure seemed to groan in protest. I kept crawling through the vent, desperately trying to stay quiet. Each shake of the building sent a wave of panic coursing through me. The beeping continued, and it felt like time was slipping away. I had to move. Suddenly, the vent's path ended in a small square opening. I peeked through the grate, heart racing. Below me I could see a larger room filled with people in lab coats. They seemed focused on screens plastered with data. Their expressions ranged from fear to determination, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. "Evan, you need to leave now!" Julie's voice echoed in my mind. She was the last person who had focused on my safety. I had to figure out how to get out of here, but I also needed answers. I couldn't face the hooded figure again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pulled deeper into something I didn't fully comprehend. As I tried to gauge the best place to drop down, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching the room I was watching. My pulse quickened. I wasn't alone in here, and my refuge was crumbling around me. The countdown was relentless, and I had no clue what would happen if it reached 0. I took a deep breath and decided I had to take a risk. I pulled off the grate and carefully climbed down. The moment I touched the floor, I scanned the room for a hiding spot. To my left was a desk piled high with papers and a chaotic mix of equipment. I pressed myself behind it, wondering if I would be seen. Then, everything went dark. The emergency lights flickered and faded, plunging the room into shadow as red alarms blared. My heart leapt with confusion. Where was I supposed to go now? At first, I thought it might just be power failure, but the frantic shouts of the researchers suggested something was dreadfully wrong. "Containment breach. Secure all exits," a woman yelled. The last words caught me off guard. Something had escaped, and it was here in the building. I crept further behind the desk, staring at the room filled with panic. One of the men at the front held a tablet, frantically tapping at the screen, trying to regain control. I glimpsed words like specimen and extraction, and I felt the heaviness of dread sink in. Was that what I was? A specimen? Then, as I listened closely, I heard a noise outside the room. A low growl, rumbling like thunder. I froze at the sound. It was coming from the hall where the hooded figure had pursued me. Had they unleashed something? Was I trapped with that thing now? Suddenly, everything burst into action as the alarms intensified. "It's coming," a voice shouted, and chaos erupted. Everyone scrambled for the exits, but they were shouting about lockdowns while I felt the walls closing in. "Get to the secure room," someone ordered, but I didn't know where that was. My mind raced. All I could do was wait, unable to decide if I should try to find a way out or stay put. Then, my heart sank as I realized I was losing control of my situation. I needed to gather my wits and find out if I could help or if I should run. Just as I steeled myself to make a decision, the lights flickered back on, only to be replaced with an eerie silence, as if the chaos had been stilled. But I knew better. This wasn't over. And soon whatever was hunting me would be here. I stayed crouched behind the desk, my body tense as I waited for the next sound, the next sign of danger. The silence was disorienting. I risked a glance towards the door, half expecting the growl to return, but nothing moved. My instincts screamed for me to flee, but I was paralyzed, trapped in uncertainty. That's when I noticed something shimmering in the chaos around me. Papers had been scattered across the floor from the desk, revealing a bright green folder marked Top Secret. I hesitated but knew I had to know. I reached out and grabbed it, flipping through the contents quickly as if I could absorb them all at once. The papers detailed experiments on various specimens, references to ultra-genetic modifications, and mentions of something called Project Orion. The deeper I read, the more I realized I might be connected to whatever this project was. Each sentence pulled me deeper into a web of questions I didn't dare voice. My breath quickened. I had to find answers. Suddenly I heard a noise from the hallway, a slithering sound followed by the unmistakable snap of teeth. My blood ran cold. Whatever had escaped was close, and the increased tension hung heavy in the air. I shoved the folder into my jacket just as I heard the steps grow louder and more frantic. Chaos was returning. "If we don't get it contained now, we'll lose everything." The voice was frantic, filled with desperation. I knew I couldn't stay hidden much longer. I had to move. I crawled from behind the desk, heart racing, not sure where to go next. In the corner of the room, I spotted a series of glass doors labeled Secure Zone. They were slightly ajar, and a glimmer of hope ignited in me. Could that be a safe place? As I made my way to the doors, the growls grew louder, followed by the sound of heavy breathing combined with a series of crashes. I glanced back toward the researchers. They were still scrambling, trying to manage the panic, but they were oblivious to the imminent threat. I couldn't count on them. With newfound urgency, I slipped through the doors. Inside, the atmosphere changed. This room was almost sterile, the air tinged with something metallic. Bright lights illuminated high-tech equipment, and massive glass containers lined the walls. I looked around, desperate for some understanding, but what I saw only deepened my sense of dread. Then I froze. In one of the containers was something moving, wriggling against the glass. It looked grotesque and inhuman, its skin shimmering under the fluorescent lights. My gut twisted at the realization I was in a space dedicated to experiments on whatever had been unleashed. I stepped backward, but the door behind me slammed shut. Panic surged through me as the sound echoed in the quiet room. I pounded against the glass, desperate for a way out. I turned to face the thing inside the container. And that's when it happened. It let out a blood-curdling roar. I realized I had to escape before whatever that thing was got out. The countdown inside my mind began again. I needed a plan. A surge of adrenaline pushed me to look for another exit. And as I scanned the room, my eyes fell on a dimly lit corridor at the back. Maybe it led to safety, or maybe it was a path to something worse. But I had no time to second guess. I dashed toward it, hoping I wasn't walking into the mouth of the beast. As I sprinted down the dimly lit corridor, my heart pounded, but my mind raced even faster. I couldn't shake the image of what was in that container. It felt like a nightmare, yet it was real. The roar echoed behind me, a reminder that I wasn't safe. The hallway was narrow, with metal walls that gleamed under flickering lights. I could hear faint noises, like whispers of machinery, adding to my unease. I pressed on, searching for something, anything that could help me. At the end of the corridor, I found an emergency exit sign glowing red. Hope surged in my chest as I rushed toward it. As I reached for the door handle, I heard footsteps closing in behind me, heavy and determined. I tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I pulled harder, my panic rising. Just as I was about to scream, I remembered the paperwork I had stuffed into my jacket. Maybe there was a specific key or access code. I fumbled to find it, breathing heavily, my fingers trembling as I flipped through the papers. That's when I caught a glimpse of something stamped in bold letters. Authorized personnel only. My pulse raced again, and I felt a mix of paranoia and desperation. Was I one of those authorized? Or had I inadvertently become a target? Suddenly, the growling from the other side of the door intensified, followed by the unmistakable sound of claws scraping against metal. Adrenaline took over. I threw myself against the door, hoping with every ounce of strength that it would give. The metal creaked alarmingly, but I didn't stop pushing. Then I heard it. A click. The door swung open, and I stumbled through, landing hard on a cold concrete floor. I quickly scrambled to my feet and glanced around. The area looked like a maintenance bay. Cables snaked along the ground and machines hummed ominously. In front of me, another door led out, but the lights overhead began to flicker even more violently. Was someone else here? Before I could think too much, I darted toward the next door. As I reached it, the sound of metal crashing echoed behind me. The creature had broken free. I flung the door open, and a blast of cool air hit me. I was outside in a long, narrow space. A catwalk stretched above, lined with fencing. Below me, more metal containers, similar to the one I had seen earlier, were scattered across the floor. My eyes widened, as I noticed several of them had their seams broken open, glistening with liquid. That's when I saw movement again, but this time it was a different creature. Slender and serpentine, slinking between the containers with an intent that sent chills up my spine. It lifted its head, and our eyes met for the briefest moment. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't stay here. I had to move again. I had to get away before it sensed me. I glanced around for an escape route, fear propelling me forward, when I heard a voice calling from above. "Get down! It's coming for you!" I looked up just in time to see a figure on the catwalk, waving frantically. I didn't know if they were trying to help or warn me of something worse, but I didn't have time to figure it out. As I turned, I could hear the growl echoing through the space again. The real threat was still pursuing me, I ran forward, but my next move was uncertain. Would I face whatever was lurking behind me, or trust this voice? Time was running out. My instincts kicked in as I made a split-second decision. I couldn't risk turning back toward the voice. The growling had intensified, a beast unleashed and determined to catch its prey. I sprinted forward into the maze of containers, my mind racing to strategize. Every footfall rattled my nerves. Every flicker of light felt like a warning. I veered left, ducking low to hide behind a column, hoping the serpentine creature wouldn't pick up my scent. I peered through the gaps, anxiously scanning for any sign of movement. The shadows danced around me, and my mind started to play tricks. Then, just as I thought I would have a moment of reprieve, there was a crash from behind one of the containers. I froze, praying it wasn't what I feared. But it was too late. The growl that followed was enough to draw my shoulders tight with dread. It was closer now, heavier, the sounds of its claws against the concrete unmistakable. I glanced at the figure above again. They were still waving, and now I saw something in their other hand, a flare gun. My heart sank as I realized I needed that distractive power. I had to get to them, but how? The catwalk seemed too far away, and the creature was now circling the area, searching for me. I made a decision. I would move quietly to my right, edging around the containers while keeping low. I could hear the creature breathing now, harsh and ragged, a reminder of its relentless search. I crouched and crept, heart pounding in rhythm with each careful step. Then I spotted something glinting in the dim light, a metal toolbox half open under one of the containers. It was a risk, but maybe it had something useful inside. I darted toward it, praying I wouldn't make any noise. Just as I reached the toolbox, the growl echoed nearer, the sound vibrating through the floor. I grabbed the toolbox, ready to take a look, but my luck was running out. The rattling of metal filled the air as the beast hurled itself against a nearby container, sending one crashing to the side. I gasped, adrenaline surging as the sound reverberated around me, drowning out my own heartbeat. I opened the toolbox quickly, searching for anything that could help. Inside, I found a wrench and some thick gloves, but nothing to ward off the creature. The growl turned into a snarl. It sensed me now. It knew I was close. I looked back up at the person on the catwalk, who seemed to point urgently toward a door at the end of the maintenance bay. Was it an exit? Relief and fear warred in my chest, as I realized I had to take my chance. I scrambled to my feet, clutching the wrench tightly. There was no turning back. The creature lunged from behind the containers, its eyes locked on me, a predator ready to strike. I ran as fast as I could, propelling myself toward that door, every fiber of my being screaming to escape. As I leapt toward the end of the bay, something caught my eye, a strange flicker of light near the exit. It wasn't just the overhead lights. This light pulsed, a rhythmic signal that seemed to call out to me. I hesitated for a split second, curiosity peaking in the chaos. Suddenly, an explosion of sound erupted behind me, and things went dark as the lights around fizzled out. I was left in pitch blackness, not knowing which way to go as fear washed over me like ice water. I stumbled in the dark, my breath hitching in my throat. I listened for the growl, but the silence felt thick, as if the night itself was holding its breath. I had no idea if the beast was still close, or if I'd gained some distance. My mind raced. I had to find a way out or risk being trapped in this nightmare. I took a cautious step forward, feeling for obstacles. My hand brushed against something cold and metallic, a container wall perhaps. I felt the urge to scream from the tension coiling in my stomach, but I held it back. I couldn't afford to make a sound. My instincts drove me to find that exit I'd seen, a shimmering point of hope, before the darkness enveloped me. Then I remembered the flickering light. My heart raced again. It had to be near the door, pulsing in the shadows. Maybe it was a chance to escape or a trap. That uncertainty gnawed at me, but it would have to wait. I had to find my bearings first. With my back pressed against the container, I felt around in the dark. Slowly, I moved my body along the metal surface, shifting to the right, inch by inch. Suddenly, a soft shuffling sound broke through the stillness. My heart dropped. Was it the creature? I held my breath, every nerve on edge. Silence. Then another sound, this time louder, sharper, Panic surged within me. I needed to act. I needed to find that light. I pushed myself off the container and moved forward faster than I intended. The edge of the container caught my foot and I stumbled. A small yelp escaped before I could cover my mouth. I froze, every muscle taut. The growl returned, low and threatening, vibrating through the concrete floor. I had provoked it. I could hear the beast shifting, its claws clicking against the surface as it moved in response to my noise. Frantically, I glanced down the maintenance bay, searching for the light. My eyes strained as they began to adjust, a faint glow coming back into focus. I took off in that direction, adrenaline coursing through me. Each step was laced with fear and determination. I had to reach that door. I turned the corner just in time to see the pulsing light clearly for the first time. It was strange and bright, almost blinding against the darkness. I couldn't tell what was producing it, but it was beautiful, like a beacon. I sprinted toward it, the growl behind me growing more furious. That's when I saw it. The source. An emergency light. But there was something else. Metallic panels lay scattered around it, and on the ground, something glinted in a way that drew my attention. It looked like a piece of machinery, but not like anything I'd ever seen before. As I approached, I reached out to touch it, but the growling intensified, echoing in the darkness. I froze again, realizing whatever I'd discovered was important, but danger loomed just behind me. I had to make a choice: grab the mysterious piece of machinery or bolt for the exit. My hands trembled as I weighed the options, urgency pulling at me in both directions. The beast was closing in. Then, something shifted behind me, a shape in the darkness moving quickly. I knew I had to act now. What did that machine mean? Would it help me, or was it just another distraction? I dashed forward, but not without glancing back one last time. I'd get an answer soon enough. I bolted out the door, heart hammering in my chest as I emerged into the open air. The sudden gust of night breeze hit my skin, and for a breathless moment, I felt a surge of freedom. But the growls echoed behind me, urging me to run faster. I could barely think through the adrenaline coursing through me as I skidded to a halt, my eyes scanning for a route away from the chaos. Ahead, I saw a sprawling expanse of trees. They beckoned me, offering shelter and the possibility of escape. But a part of me hesitated. Was I running into nature's embrace, or back into the depths of the unknown? I had to trust my instincts. Breathing heavily, I sprinted into the forest. The trees rose like ancient sentinels, and the cacophony of night enveloped me. I could still hear the growling. It was distant, but relentless. But as I pushed further into the woods, the sounds faded. I kept moving, praying to lose whatever had been unleashed within those walls. The ground beneath my feet was soft, mossy, the underbrush a tangled maze of roots and fallen leaves. I stumbled more than once, fear driving my pace as I navigated the twisting path. After what felt like an eternity, I spotted a clearing up ahead, moonlight spilling through the branches like silver dust. It was almost surreal, the serene beauty of the night juxtaposed with the chaos that had just unfolded. As I reached the edge of the clearing, I turned back to catch my breath. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows shifted, and for a moment, I thought I saw something flit between the trees, a dark silhouette slipping through the night. My chest tightened, but I couldn't stay in one place. I needed to keep moving. Suddenly, my senses jolted back. The rhythmic beats, the strange pulse I'd heard earlier, they were back, echoing through the forest like a heartbeat. Each beat resonated with an intensity that made my skin crawl. The air around me felt charged, thick with an energy I couldn't explain. I moved deeper into the woods, hoping to put distance between me and whatever had lurked in that laboratory. My thoughts raced back to my team. What happened to them? Were they even alive? Did they know what had unfolded? The unanswered questions clawed at me. Minutes later, I stumbled upon a small house, its outline barely illuminated by the moon. The door hung slightly ajar, an inviting contrast to the oppressive forest around me. I hesitated. This could be anyone's home, or the abode of something far worse. But it was a chance, a flicker of hope. I pushed the door open, cringing as it creaked. The interior was dark, and a chill swept through me. I glanced around, seeing nothing but scattered furniture covered in dust and shadows. Suddenly, I felt it again, that presence. Something was close. I took another cautious step inside, closing the door behind me. Then the rhythmic beats intensified again, but this time, they pulsed in tandem with a whispering voice calling out, "Evan." I froze, my heart racing. Julie's voice mingled with the echoes, pleading and desperate. I couldn't tell if it was a memory or a reality. I stood frozen as the sounds pressed in around me, ghostly and insistent. My mind spun with confusion. What was trying to reach me? Was it my friends, or something darker? Just as I turned to leave, I heard something crash outside, making me jump. I whipped back to the door, my instincts screaming for me to run again. Trapped between fear and curiosity, I made my way to the nearest window. The forest was still outside, but shadows danced along the perimeter. Gritting my teeth, I prepared to make a break for it when a spectral figure flickered in the dark. That same silhouette again. The room around me shifted, a shadow overtaking my vision. "Evan." Julie's voice echoed clearer this time, almost tangible. I gasped, trying to reconcile her presence and the chaos in my mind. With dawning horror, I backed away, each step heavy. If I didn't leave soon, I would become part of whatever this was. A story lost to the echoes of time. I glanced back, the invitation of the forest warring against the weight of the unknown behind me. All I could do was dart outside again, the rhythmic pulse urging me forward. Whether it was calling me back or warning me to stay away, I had no way of knowing. As I burst through the door, the night air hit me again, the moon illuminating my path. I ran, heart pounding, deeper into the woods. No longer just running from danger, but searching for some vestige of truth. I still think about that night sometimes, replaying it in my head, wondering if the whispers were warnings or attempts at communication. I've never gone back to that observatory, and I doubt I ever will. The fog may have lifted, but the questions still linger, echoing in the silence. What was out there, and why was it so determined to find me?